Hey, hey, I'm Scotty T from Your Comedy Minute, and I have a fantastic young lady with me. Joanna Briley's here. Joanna's not only a comedian, but she's the founder, the CEO, the director of the Black Women in Comedy Laugh Fest. Joanna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Scott, for having me. I'm so happy to be your first guest of the 2025 year 2025, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't wait.
Well, since you brought it up, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, January 1st, 2025, and the little bastards kept me up all night with the fireworks. I have about 2 hours sleep. I'm flying on fumes.
Wow. Wow. The same for me. I
I
started
know,
work
I know.
last night. I worked the overnight shift and
Right.
I was dozing off waiting for 10 o'clock because I was like, oh my God, I said 10. I almost went to sleep, but I saw something on Instagram and I was like, oh shit, I got an interview at 10 o'clock. I was
I
like,
got that
stay
idiot from Your Comedy Minute.
up.
Uh now
Yes,
let's
so I'm
start.
happy to
Let's
be here.
start. You're
Okay.
in New York.
Yes.
Were you born and raised in New York?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
I raised here until about 8, and then I went to live with my dad in
Okay.
Danbury, Connecticut from
Okay.
9 until about 15.
Okay.
And it was that 9-year-old self that turned to comedy as a coping mechanism, as a form of a solace, if you will, from being separated from my mom. And so I turned to comedy. I found a way to laugh through the pain and the separation of it all. And it wasn't a dramatic, like, divorce and I wanted to live with my dad. It was nothing like that. He just kidnapped me off the street and took me to Connecticut because I didn't know where Connecticut was. I just thought it
Okay.
was like Coney Island. I knew Coney
Okay.
Island was CON, Connecticut is CON. I'm like, oh, it must be another amusement area. And after we got there, I was like, ooh, this is Mayberry. Because all I saw was white people. This is the most white people I've ever
looking
seen in my
looking
life.
for Andy and Opie.
Yes. And then he took me to Bradley. So if you old enough, you know where
Oh
Bradley's
God.
and Caldors,
Right.
that's equivalent of Target and Walmart. And so he took me shopping because he literally picked me up off the street. I was at my cousin's and he bought me clothes, he bought me everything. And I was
Okay.
like, ooh, this is kind of cool.
Right.
And I stayed in Connecticut and did my formative, like early fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade
In Connecticut.
there. And yeah, and well, like I said, comedy, I for some reason I gravitated toward the Mad
Okay.
magazine, the Crack magazine, cracked, not crack.
Yeah, I know. I got it. I got it. People that don't
Um,
remember that Mad Magazine and Crack
right,
Magazine,
yes,
sure.
yes. The
Well,
Saturday Night Live.
let me just
Yes.
interject real quick because
Okay.
the next question you already started answering it. When did you start doing comedy, and was there a catalyst on why? And I think you said, at age 9, Dad taking you off to Connecticut. That's what you decided. Is
I
that
didn't
right?
decide. I didn't decide, right? I just knew that I didn't want to cry. I
Right.
didn't want to cry about it. So I just knew if I laughed, it wouldn't hurt as bad, right? It didn't hurt anymore because I was laughing and laughing made me feel good. I was still sad at times,
Yeah.
but I knew that laughing felt good and nobody would know I'm sad because I'm laughing. And yeah, that's what I guess my 9-year-old self knew. And
Okay.
so anything I could watch, Saturday Night Live, Second City Television, the early years of Saturday Night Live was gold.
Yeah.
76, 77, 78. So I think 75 I started watching it. And then 77, 78, 79, the 80s, like all of it, Second City Television, Laughing,
Sure. Sure.
Love, American Style. Like,
Yeah. I remember that. Okay. When did you actually do your first gig? Can you tell me that? Do you
Oh,
remember
yes.
that?
My first gig was March of 1996 at
Okay.
Stand Up New York on 78th and Broadway. I took a class, right? Because I love comedy, right? So this
Right.
guy I was dating at the time, Andre, every date we went on was a comedy club and a comedy show. And he really turned to me one day. He was like, "You really love comedy?" I said, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "Well, you know, you're funnier than that guy up on stage." And
Yeah.
I was like, "I am?" He said, "Yeah, you could do that." And I was like, "I can?" Because
Yeah.
I didn't know how comedy was done. And if you live in New York, you know there's it's equivalent of Craigslist, but it was a magazine called The Learning Annex.
Okay.
And you took the Learning Annex and you circled and took whatever course or class. They were cheap, like $40, $50. And I took the course. He came to my house, Andre, with the catalog and circled how to be a stand up comedian. And the class was coming up. And the teacher was, his name was Richard Meltzer. I believe it was
Okay.
Richard Metzer or something like
Okay.
that. And as they say, the rest is history.
Okay.
So it's been almost 25, 26 years
Okay. Yeah, and
that
you're
I've
you're
been doing.
fantastic. But we want to
Yes.
move what we want to move on because we got a lot to cover.
Okay.
Um, I want to move on to the MTA. You've worked for the MTA for over 30 years, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you work the overnights. You I guess take the tickets or whatever.
We don't have that anymore. In the
Oh,
beginning,
okay.
in the beginning we sold tokens. Then we moved to Metro cards, and then because of COVID, they got rid of the cash in the booth. So we're cashless
Okay.
system. And
Well,
because of my strong union, they can't, they still have to find and provide a job for us because we have a union.
right. And the city is spending $1 million to figure out why people are jumping over the toll.
Yes, all they had to do was ask me. All they had to do was say, "Joanna, why are people not paying their fare?" That says because they don't want to. Plain and simple. They don't want to,
I did,
right? And no
I
one's
saw
enforcing it.
I saw your post and I thought, boy, there's $1 million wasted, isn't it?
Exactly,
Where
exactly.
where's the
Well, you know what? It stems from transit, as large as they are in business. A lot of times they just do things ass backwards, right?
right,
And
right.
one of the things is during COVID, when they took the cash out the booth, they told us if people came to us with large bills, since we didn't have cash, we couldn't give change, to let them go through the gate. If the
Okay.
machine was down, it says no bills, no cards, blah blah blah. Let them through the
Go
gate.
through.
So
Right.
for 2 to 3 years, that's what the challenge was, letting them through the gate. Because
Okay.
every time you turned around, of course, those 30-year-old machines were down, and so people got used to not paying.
Yeah.
So now they want to enforce people to pay, but you started it. You
Right,
started
right,
them. You
right.
taught them the lingo. Hey, the machine says no bills. So now they wanted us to say, if it says no bills, they want us to say, do you have a credit card or debit card that you can tap and go? And in the hood, they ain't got no tap and go.
I was gonna
Most of them,
say,
they
well,
don't got no credit card. They don't have debit. Some of them have chimes, whatever. But the bottom line is transit did it backwards, and it's kicking them in the butt because they also hired security guards
yeah,
to
I heard
stand
that.
there
You
as
told me that.
deterrents, and it's
Yeah,
working to a degree.
yeah. Well, and I think if I'm right, I try to do as much research on every person that comes on. You get a lot of material from that you see at night.
Yes, yes. Okay. Well, part of my okay, so I created a one woman show. It's called Swipe This. I know you probably like, what? Yes. So in 19, right. So I just started comedy in 96. About a few months later, like July, this guy comes to my station and exposes himself to me, Scott.
I
And
knew that
and
was
and,
coming.
and I in class, they didn't train us for that. Okay, they didn't say, "Hey, there's going to be guys taking their dick out. This is what you need to do." And so, as a
Wait, did,
comedian,
did,
as a
did you start
view,
clapping? It looked like you started
huh?
clapping. Did
Did
you
I
start
start clapping?
clapping?
No, I was
What?
scared. I was scared. I was really scared. But the comedian in me comedian in me gets on the microphone and says, "Hey, you with your dick out, move a little closer so I can see you better." And and Scott, he took off running, and I'm like, "Yes, I won! Like I'm winning. This is I won. He left. I'm winning. I'm winning."
That's funny
Guess
as
who
heck.
shows up the next day, Scott? Yeah, yeah. He showed up the next day and the next day and the next day. And although I'm telling you how it happened
You mean
verbatim,
he kept showing
this,
up?
yes. And Scott, let me just say this. Let me add to it, which is how
It,
I know I was destined to be a comedian because my 1996, I was also in college getting a
okay.
degree in psychology. That semester that guy showed up with his dick out was sexual deviant behavior course. I can't make this up. I'm in
Right.
class learning about sexual deviance. So after a week of this, I go to my professor. I'm like, "Professor, there's a guy taking his dick out at my station. What do I do?" And she was like, "Get an A on your paper." God, she gave me a list of questions to ask this pervert if he happened to show up again. And guess who showed up again?
Yeah, I was
I'm
as we
not
were
making
sitting
this
here, I was
up. This
thinking,
is actually
hey, it
what
looks like
happened.
it look I was trying to think of something. It looks like a dick, only smaller.
No, no, I'm sorry. I ain't gonna front. This thing was huge, okay?
Oh,
I was
okay, okay.
God,
Well,
I ain't gonna
see,
front. I
I
was
was going with your
mesmerized.
I was going with your first line where you said, "Hey, move a little closer, I can't see it."
Well, only because he was further away from me. That's why I
Oh,
said move
okay.
so I could see it. But and then when he did, okay, because he listened, I was like, that's what so that's another part of my joke that I add. I said, see, I like a man that listen. He moved a little closer the next day, and I'm like, Lord have mercy. If he
Okay.
wasn't crazy, because the thing was huge, Scott. Like I mean, I'm
I
not scared of his
I'm
dick.
good.
I'm not
I'm
like little
good.
Kim.
Joanne,
Uh,
I'm good with hearing about the man's dick. Let's move
okay,
on. I'm good with that. I'm not
it,
really
it,
I
it
don't
it works with the bit. Okay, the
yeah,
bit is
it's all good. Let's move on. In 2019, you started the Black Women in Comedy Laugh Fest. As I
yes,
said, you're the founder, the CEO, the big kahooga there. And I just want you to tell everybody because the next one is coming up. I wrote down February 27th through March 2nd in New York.
yes.
And I want you to tell everybody all about it. And everyone, again, I know some of this, but for people that are just tuning in, I want you because it's such a great cause.
Yes.
It's not just about comedy, it's about helping people and mental
Hmm.
health and everything. So please take a few minutes and tell everybody
Yes.
about it.
Well, in 2018, the festival idea came about,
Okay.
and it had to do with another festival that was in New York City. It's called She Makes Me Laugh,
Okay.
and a Vegas comedian that I know, that everybody knows, she
You can mention it.
happened to
You can
see,
mention her.
huh?
You can mention whoever you want.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, no,
Mention
she's part of
everybody
the
you want.
festival. Yeah, she saw the article, and so in our Facebook group, she was like, "Hey, New York, how you have a festival in New York and you don't have any black women in it?" And so when everybody looked at the article of
Right.
She Makes Me Laugh, the pictures were all of white women
Right.
on the front page of the article,
Okay.
similar to whatever the founder of the festival sent her press kit, and the journalist chose to only focus on the white women for the cover. Fine. When you open it and you explore it, you see that she did have women of color in it. But the headline
Yeah.
screams only
Yeah.
white women, which triggered Shauna Christmas, right? From Vegas. So once the dialogue started happening in the Facebook group, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning because I work nights,
Right.
I was like, fuck that. We'll create our own. And
Right.
so that's how the festival was born. I
Right.
did get to speak to the director of
Yeah.
that festival, and she was like so embarrassed and ashamed or whatever. She had mixed feelings about it because that wasn't her intent. I said, well, regardless of your intent, thank you for the
Opportunity.
inspiration behind this festival because it is needed. Even though you do have Black women on stages in New York City, this when I was coming up, even in 2019, you didn't see a lot of us. You didn't have a show
Right.
where you could have five Black women that are totally different, different perspectives
Right.
on a show. And so the festival, uh, it was a success. And for somebody that never did a festival before, it was a major success. And one of the key components was, Scott, I hired a psychiatrist, a therapist to come talk to the creatives, the comedians,
Yeah.
to just build a sense of community and talk about some of the stressors of being a Black woman in the comedy game, what it feels like to be a mid-level, a beginning comedian that hasn't broke that barrier to get to the next stage, how to get an agent, how to get booked at certain clubs, how to get past at certain clubs, but just have a sorority, a sisterhood where we could
Right.
commiserate and talk and share and network. And from that, it snowballed. Everybody was talking about it. It was such a good vibe feeling. And we did it in February, Black History Month.
Right. Right.
And it was pivotal. People came to see us. Shows were sold out. It was only 3 days then in 2019. Then COVID hit. And
Okay.
so we canceled it for COVID. And then during the cancellation, I realized if we do it in June, we have the opportunity to do stuff outdoors where we're a little more safer. And so I started looking at places where we could do outdoor venues. So we moved to Juneteenth week. Um,
Okay.
and I still had mental health specialists come, therapists to talk to the women every year. That's
Yeah.
become such a beautiful workshop uh,
Yeah.
for the women to explore. Most of them don't know until they get there that we're going to do this. I try to tell them now to be prepared. Nobody has to share anything they don't want to, but it's closed. It's not open to the public. But this is the opportunity for us to network, to share, to continue to build our bond. And what I find is comedy, a lot of people say comedy is a solo act. And yes, when you're on stage, you're by yourself. But when you get off the stage, you need your community. You need people to pour into
Right.
you. You need that support system so that you can grow as an artist. It's lonely. There's a lot of comedians that have passed on. Some of them, kill themselves or
Yeah.
commit
Yeah.
suicide. You know what I mean? And we don't know what's
Well,
going on with them.
I
And
didn't.
they could be smiling in your face.
I
And it's
didn't
like,
know. And let me just say this real quick. And I'm not proud of this, but last, I guess, well, it's probably about a year ago. I had the Gwyn factor on,
uh-huh.
and Gwyn started telling me about and kept mentioning, and I guess it would have been last year's festival, whatever, that she was in it. And then I had Starla Hines on,
Yes.
and so she was talking about it, and that's when I thought, well, man, I want to get involved with this because first off, I want all women. I would love to have nothing but women on my show.
Yeah.
And particularly, no, and I'm being sincere, I'll take all the Black women I could get all day because I
Wow.
want to show diversity, exactly what the other festival didn't do, and brings us to why we're here today. Because Gwen posted something, and I said, I want every one of those women on the show.
I saw that.
And,
I
so,
definitely saw that.
and that's when you jumped in and said, hey, I'm
Yeah.
the one. So that's, I said, okay, I want you on the show.
Yes.
And so
Yes. And
far, I've been able to get Patrice DeVoe. I had
I posted it in the
Joaquin.
group. I
I've got,
posted in
and
the
I'm
group. I
trying to
put your
get as many.
information.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
want to get as many on as I can and air it before February because I want to help out.
Thank you so
Because,
much because we do.
and let me just put,
Allyship, and just friendship and support
yeah,
is everything, right? And one of the things that I've been struggling with, I should say, not struggling, that haven't, what I need support in truly is sponsorship,
yeah,
fundraising, and what's that called? Strategic partnership and planning.
yeah,
Listen, this is grassroots. Like I've taken out pension loans to support this endeavor, this passion project. Because in the beginning, I didn't know nothing about sponsorship. Everybody kept saying, "You got a sponsor deck? What is a sponsor deck?" I had no clue. I have a deck now. I have a EIN LLC. Like I'm doing all
cool,
the things.
cool.
I got my first grant Last
Good.
year, I won a grant for $1,000, so
Good.
I'm very happy about that. But we did a fundraiser, my first fundraiser last year. We were able to raise $9,000. I was
Fantastic.
so grateful for that. And then we got one sponsor for 5,000. So that was fourteen thousand
Wonderful.
dollars to help
Well,
with the cost of the
we're gonna
festival.
keep it going, Joanna. We're gonna keep it going. Anything I can do to help.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I have a donation, so I have a physical sponsor, right? I'm not a 501c3, so I connected with the Field. The Field
I
organization
saw
is
that.
a
I'm
right.
gonna put all the links when
Thank
this
you, thank you
airs.
so
I'll
much,
put
Scott.
all the links to everything. And
Yes,
anyone that watches this, please help out because I just want to say this, and I don't mean to cut you off.
yes.
But when I first heard about it, I thought, okay, it's a comedy festival. It wasn't until I looked into it about how much you're helping the mental side, and if anybody needs it, it's comedians.
Amen.
Comedians, I don't think people realize. I've been doing this. I'm coming up on 5 years.
Oh
How
wow.
dark it gets sometimes. There are times I just want to quit, and there are times I don't think anything is funny.
Exactly.
Nothing is funny.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
people don't realize. I mean, for instance, and I don't want to get talking about me, but I have my brother. I've lost touch with my brother, my sister, because they don't understand it. They think I'm nuts. But I just want to bring joy to people's lives and make people laugh, and that's what I'm going to do till the day I die.
Amen. And that's what I'm
And
here
I
for.
don't.
And so
Pardon my French. I don't give a shit. Time is up.
well, one of the things that we do as comedians, as artists, and me for this festival, for the first 5 years, I put everybody before me. And I technically, Scott, I was hiding in the festival, right? And when I say hiding, I was not pursuing the things that I loved outside of the festival. I was like, no, 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 I got to focus on these women.
Yeah.
And then it hit me in 2024. I was like, but Joanna, you're sitting on a solo show. You're sitting on this, you're sitting on that. And I was like, yeah. And I realized I can still do the festival and still help these women, but I got to help myself. I
Well,
got to
you
do the
know what's
things that I
funny?
love. And my solo
That's
show is called Swipe This, My Life in
o-
Transit. And
okay.
it's about my transitions in life, from my dad picking me up uh
Okay.
off the street, kidnapping me and bringing me to Connecticut, and all the transitions to where I work inside of a token booth, which is a box, and I actually place myself in a box emotionally, physically, financially. Like, I'm so closed off from really living my full life that now it's time to get out of that booth. It's time to get out of that
That's great.
box. And so
That's
that's
great.
metaphorically and literally what I'm trying to do in the story.
Well,
And so I've been
that's a
working on it.
question. That's a question I wrote down. Believe it or not.
What?
That do you enjoy doing the festival more or doing the stand up, your own personal stand up?
As of since I'm a past comedian at the New York Comedy Club, I got to perform this the last month of December. I got passed and I performed, and now that I have intention on what I'm doing, because I used to get up there and just have fun, right? I had no Now that I know I'm working on my solo show and I see the progress each
Okay,
week I go
cool.
on stage, I have goals, and I see, okay, let me see. As a producer, you're producing for everyone else. When
Right,
you're a past comedian and you go just to perform because you're the performer,
right.
it's just me now. The audience is seeing
Cool.
just Joanna. They're not seeing Joanna in her production. They're not seeing Joanna in all of her shows. So now I'm meeting people for the first time that never saw me before, and they're coming up to me afterwards saying how much they enjoyed my set,
Right.
how funny I am, and it's like it finally, like, oh my God, this is what I've been hiding from in the festival,
Well, I'm looking forward
pretending
to
that I was content.
having you back
Hello,
on after the festival and we can work on talk
please
about
do.
your personal stuff because that was a question I had. I was wondering whether because I know just in doing these for last year and a half or so that there's a different you got to wear a different hat. Nancy Levine just put on
Yes,
a show
Scott,
in New
and
York where she has to deal
yes,
with all the people that want to come on and going through all the tapes and figuring out who's going to be on, who's not. You know, there's a lot
I was
that
hiding. I
doesn't leave
admit it.
much
I was
time for
hiding.
Joanna to do her comedy.
And I was hiding. I honestly did a
Okay.
reflective moment, and it was during last year's festival when I realized. I said, "Oh, you've been hiding, bitch." Oh. So what I did was, Scott, I submitted to the New York Fringe Festival, the solo show. I
Okay.
submitted my solo show, and I said, if I get in, do it. Stop being scared. And I got in. I'm still scared, but I'm gonna do it scared. I'm gonna do it afraid because I want to know what's on the other side because I've been hiding for 10 years. I wrote this shit 10 years ago,
Cool.
2014. I performed it to 2 sold out shows in 2014 around April too. So it's almost like, what's that called? Serendipity is coming back to
Yeah.
April. I have 4 shows in April for this solo show, and I'm scared, but I'm excited because
You're going to be fine.
I'm gonna stop being afraid. I'm
You're going
pouring
to be
into
fine.
myself. Yes.
You're going to be fine. I believe in my heart. And you know what? People ask me, not that I'm comparing myself, why are you doing this? Why? Because I just want to help people. Whether I have Joanna Briley on, or I have George Wallace on, or I have Lester Bibbs, or Gwen Factor, or whoever, or some little young comedians just starting out from Philadelphia that doesn't have any teeth, who I just had on the other day, it don't matter. His family and his girlfriend and those people, they enjoyed watching that video just as much as your people are going to enjoy watching this.
Yes. I
And I think
appreciate
good
this so much.
karma, that's where I believe all that you've done for all these people, it's going to come back to you tenfold. At least I hope so.
You're gonna make me cry because
Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is
I
a comedy show. Don't start that shit up.
I get emotional because I know the women that reach back. Like, matter of fact, this year, Jennifer Ammo was at the first year's festival, right? She
Yeah.
was brand spanking new, and we had such a beautiful moment with her, sharing, right? And she submitted. Mind you, Scott, I don't look at the tapes. I can't look at the tapes when they're submitting because I let everybody in. I'm Mama Joe. They call me Mama Joe, so I don't watch them anymore. I have a whole review committee that looks at them and they
Yeah.
score them and then they tell me and that because I have a heart where it's like, oh, just all they need is some, let them, that's me. I did that the first two
Yeah.
years and they was like, no more.
Sounds like me putting some of these people on this show. I'm like, at times I go, oh my God, what
Yeah,
did I
yeah.
do?
I'm learning this year's class of 2025, Scott. Every year I keep saying, oh, these women are funny. This class, you got Joe King, you got Patrice, like there's
Yeah.
Stacy Burke, like there's I think she goes by Anderson, Precious J from Detroit.
Right.
There's a young lady coming from Trinidad and Tobago,
Okay.
lyrics. Like
Okay.
we're international. I mean, we already had
Cool.
Canadian comedians coming in to the festival. It's something, Scott, for me to realize that, oh my God, I created something that women want to
Yeah.
get into. Let me tell you, the ones that don't get in, Scott, they pissed, right? And some of them let me
Yeah.
know how pissed they
Well,
are. And,
better
and
luck
I
next year.
I know, but it's
I know.
that
I know. It's how many people you think I get that, man? I really want to get in your show. And then I look at their stuff and I go, I'm sorry. I had
yeah.
one
Well,
lady want to
listen,
come on.
and mind you, Scott, it's not even that they're not funny. I only could accept a certain
Yeah,
amount. So
right.
even if you kick ass funny, I
It's like
can't
me.
have.
I'm swamped ever since George Wallace. I'm swamped, and then I said I want to help all you guys, so I'm just like swamped. But look,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
going to run
Well,
out
I
of
mean,
time, and
watching
I
those
want to I want you
drops.
to come back. I only have the free version
Yes.
of Zoom, so we're going to run
Okay.
out of time.
I will definitely be back because this
Okay,
is a good
cool.
idea.
But look, we want to do it because we can use it as a preview. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
Joanna Briley, your comedy minute. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, I mean, as you already know, I work for the MTA, and as a
Right?
single woman, I find it easy to meet men. But I'm picky, ladies. I like the men that buy the 7 or 30 day unlimited.
Okay.
That means they
Okay.
have a job for 7 or 30 days. Got to use your brain. You got to use your brain in this New York City streets.
Well, and I don't know. I think after that guy that pulled his dick out, I think anything's possible,
His
right?
name is Tyrone.
Tyrone, did you get to
He was
know him?
22. Listen, no, he answered the questions. You didn't let me finish, but he answered the questions. I got an A plus on my paper, Scott.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Well, that's
Yes,
even more reason you're going to have to come back to tell me, because I will say this before we go. I think if I understand right, you have a twin bed now.
yes, I do, and I have a twin bed. I just ordered another one.
Because it's lonely, and then you just fall out. It's best you don't roll over.
Yes, you definitely do your homework.
I certainly do. Hey, let me stop the recording so we can spend a minute or two off the air. I
Okay,
love you. I think the world of you. God bless you.
thank you, thank you. Bye bye.
Hang in there a second. Let me stop the recording,
Okay,
okay?
all right.